I'm glad to welcome you all to the Upscale YouTube channel. As always, I'm Ego Fox. And as you know, we've repeatedly published interviews with funded traders who have withdrawn tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes $3,500. And in reality, all these amounts sound to us like something unattainable, incomprehensible, as if something like this could never happen to us in our lives. But I want to say that here at Upscale, we are engaged in prop trading. Prop trading is when you are given company capital to implement your own trading strategies without risking your own money. And you don't need to have an account with $100,000 or even $10,000. You can start with something small. And that's exactly why today we've decided to invite a young man named Daniil to our studio. What makes Daniil interesting is that he bought a $1,000 challenge for trading on Upscale, which costs only $18, managed to pass all the phases of the challenge, moved on to the funded stage, and withdrew $91, thus fully covering the cost of the challenge and making a profit for himself. So let's talk with Daniil. As far as I know, trading isn't his main occupation. He's been doing it as a side activity for about a year. That's why I'm more than sure that each of you will find it interesting to listen, especially if you're just starting out on your own journey. I want to thank Daniil in advance for agreeing to join us, taking the time, and sharing his story. So, shall we? Let's get started. Hello, Daniil.
Greetings.
How are you feeling today? Please tell us a bit.
Everything's great. I'm in an excellent mood. The sun is shining outside and I'm smiling.
You know, a smile is always wonderful. Let's do this. Tell us a little about yourself. For example, how old are you? Where are you from? And what do you mainly do besides trading? Well, overall, yes, that's a pretty typical classic question.
I'm Daniil. I'm 29 years old. My main occupation is as a musical theater artist and a vocal coach. I have a professional and higher education in vocal performance and stage arts. I've been actively trading for about a year. Well, actively in quotes. It's not my main occupation. I devote an hour or two a day to it, a few hours a week.
So, how did you even get into trading in the first place? So, basically, you have a creative position, you could say. Well, it's definitely a creative one. And here, it's all numbers, charts, candlesticks, crypto, shouting, liquidations. Yeah.
But I can tell you that I found out about trading, or rather about crypto. Of course, we've all heard about crypto somewhere back in 2018 when Bitcoin was at $20,000 and in 2020 when it dropped to $3,000. But I really got interested in it probably during the bull run of 2021 when it went up to
It went up to 68,000, right? Yeah.
69, 68. There was a ton of hype and noise about it on YouTube. That's just how it happened. I don't know why, but as soon as you show even a little interest in something, you start getting bombarded with investment ads. That's how Bitcoin, crypto, and trading ended up in my information space. I got really interested in all of it. I remember my very first trade. It was buying Doge on a spot account back when it cost less than 10 cents. I bought it for maybe 1,000 rubles. I don't know, maybe 300 at the time. About $10. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and that was my first FOMO because I sold it after 2 or 3 weeks. And then it just shot up like a rocket on some news, on the Musk tweets. As we all know, that was, I think, my first FOMO experience. So that's how I first got acquainted with trading. My job was, back then I was still studying, so I had the opportunity to be interested in things. Now I work full time and have less free time, but back then I could spend a lot more time watching videos and learning what it was all about and how it worked.
So, are you actually an old timer? Well, I guess I'm an old timer in the sense that
I've known about the market for a little over a year, and I've been interested in things like cryptocurrencies and trading. I was interested in the spot market. If we're talking specifically about futures, then it's been just under a year that I've been involved in all this.
here's the thing. We're on the Upskill channel, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Upskill is a trading company that gives you access to capital if you can prove your trading skills. So how did you end up getting into prop trading?
At first, I got interested in futures trading and started trying it out. I have an account on Bybit and I tried making some small trades, sometimes scalping, sometimes just regular trades. The amounts were small, like $10 to $20, just as a way to learn for myself and gain experience. In one of the trading chats, where we usually share ideas with each other, one guy mentioned that he was trading with another company in another prop firm. I got interested, started researching, and gradually it all led to me buying a challenge on Upscale. When they launched a bit later, I watched for a while and realized that the platform seemed to work well and there were already traders who had withdrawn funds, so I waited until I reached a point where I could determine the platform's reliability for myself.
So, overall, you were watching Upscale at first, following our social media, seeing various posts about payouts, maybe even some videos had already come out.
The very first ones I think came out in May and June. I saw them, but I already bought my first challenge in May.
I see, I see. Well, listen, that's interesting. I don't always meet people who, if I'm building some kind of strategy, like whether to try the product or not, usually it's like, I'll check it out. If I don't like it, that's it, I'm gone. But you actually stuck around, waited, observed, trusted us right away. That's really nice to hear.
It's not like I was watching you with a candle or purposefully monitoring you around the clock, scrolling through the feed. No, I just made a mental note that this platform exists, and I keep an eye on how often it pops up in the news somewhere. I was interested because, first and foremost, it's Telegram as a platform, and it seemed like a major convenient solution. At least as someone trading in Russia, I can say that CTrader works poorly on mobile. You have to use all sorts of add-ons in other prop firms, and that's penalized. What I liked about your platform is that it works reliably and the rules are very transparent. So transparent, in fact, that I'd say they couldn't be any clearer.
It sounds like an ad, but it really is true. Yeah, it does sound like.
An ad. But seriously, if you look at the list of requirements before withdrawing money, before withdrawing profits, I don't know, we could probably fit it into 4 or 5 points. If you read the rules at other prop firms, whether it's crypto, stocks, metals, or American markets, it doesn't matter. There are an incredible number of hidden rules there.
I totally get it myself. There was even this art project once where a young artist decided to do a performance by printing out and hanging up the user agreements from various companies like Apple, Samsung, and others on a wall. The wall was about 4 meters high, and he hung them all the way to the very top. Some of them even wrapped around the room several times before the agreement ended. The people watching us right now are really interested to know how you achieved your first results in prop trading, how you managed to pass the challenge and everything else. So I suggest you move over to the trading terminal, maybe TradingView or whatever is most convenient for you, and tell us about which indicators you use, your strategies, and so on. All right, I can see your terminal. Let's get started.
The Bitcoin chart on the 4 hour time frame, well, let's put it this way. I can trade in different ways. I prefer intraday and swing trading simply because I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to this. But sometimes, if there's a setup, say I see something like this, I might try to do some scalping too, for example, on a breakout or some very targeted trades. I mainly use technical analysis, but not the kind where you just trade chart patterns like I see a cup and handle here and I enter. In this case, a cup and handle pattern wouldn't have worked out.
Well, actually, you can see it clearly. I can see both the cup and the handle right there.
Yeah, a cup and handle, and then we moved, pulled back like this, formed a downward slope, and only after that did we go back to test again. So, not patterns, but more fundamental things, like the volume profile from mirror levels at the main level. To sum it up, I mostly trade levels. Some global ones, for example, a daily volume level that I've marked for myself, which we recently approached. We literally missed it by about $100, but I'll consider that a kind of test for myself because there could be a small margin of error.
We'd be interested to hear which indicators you use to help you, maybe some kind of RSI or perhaps another indicator, the main indicator.
I only use the volume profile, the horizontal one, and I can stretch out a fixed profile. That's it. Those are all the indicators I use. Sometimes if I forget, I check when the trading session opens, but that's all I use right now.
What was that scary sound?
Show it again. You just need to stretch it out and run it not on the 4 hour chart, but at least on the 1 hour chart, and it shows you the start time of the trading session. Because sometimes, well, they have daylight saving and standard time, so the time can shift by an hour. It should shift and it will shift. And I use this indicator as a reminder for myself. Now, in general, I already remember it, but I still keep it in my favorites. I don't like indicators. I think, well, I don't know how to put it exactly, but in my opinion, an indicator just shows what has already happened. And what has already happened, I can see without an indicator, to be honest. The chart itself gives you a perfect opportunity to understand the current situation. There's candlestick analysis, there's chart analysis, I mean technical analysis, there's volume profile, horizontal levels, everything is visible anyway. As far as I'm concerned, when you overload yourself with indicators, you just restrict yourself because excessive analysis, well, it holds you back, as I already said. Too much analysis actually creates problems and prevents you from making decisions. There should be a set of reliable tools that I always rely on.
Listen, I completely understand your position. Let's do this. You've told us about profiles, ranges, trading sessions, and how you mark them. Now, let's imagine your trading day has started. You've opened up your favorite Bitcoin, as I understand it, and you need to assess the situation overall. How do you go about your analysis? Maybe you could walk us through it so that the viewers watching us might be able to repeat something or get inspired.
So let's say we're opening the chart for the first time this morning. Well, it's already midday, Asia has traded, and now it's probably London that's active. What do we see? Right now, I've already set up the volume profile, as you can see, to mark an important price level where the most trading activity took place. We can see here how much volume there is. The main volume is concentrated in this zone. I mark this for myself. This is the volume. You could even say it's on the 4-hour chart. Yes, so this is the 4-hour volume. For me, this will be a key point that the price will definitely reach. And from there, I need to watch for a reaction. In addition to this, I had a volume level on the daily chart, and I see that the price has already approached it. You could say it's not a very strong reaction, but it's still a reaction to the price. So you need to keep an eye on what happens next. Will we consolidate around this level, or will we pull back to the 4-hour volume level? My logic for today is that I'll be waiting for the first hour of the New York session. It's always best to wait for the first hour of New York to close because there could be manipulation. I think anyone who's been trading for a while understands that these huge wicks, these big spikes, are when the market maker is searching for a better price for themselves. And it causes a lot of people to take losses. And people start rushing into positions thinking, oh, the asset is going to take off without me. But in the end, they might hit an imbalance or a level and then drop lower, pushing the price down and creating a false move. At the moment, I have a level below. There have been many touches here, and there's a bit of consolidation, yes. But in fact, I'm going to consider this a double bottom behind which there's liquidity.
So basically, you have this kind of range, a little corridor forming, right? With a double bottom, exactly.
Yeah, right now I see a range. You could actually highlight it as a rectangle. We're accumulating volume here, and most likely it will break out upwards, most likely. But I'll be watching how the asset behaves in this zone. If it drops a bit lower, I'll probably expect a sweep of this double bottom and a reaction to this trend line. Ideally, a long time ago, I identified the price of 113,500 for myself where it would be possible to add to a long position, provided we don't go lower. If we look at the setup for today, for example, if we want to trade today and intraday, we look at the structure on the 15-minute chart. Right now, we've made a higher high and a higher low, and here we need to watch where the asset will go next. If it goes lower, you could try to trade on the retest up to this volume here, maybe with a short position, for example. We'll try now. Where is it, for example, from here? Of course, the price will be a bit lower because we'll be entering on the break, like here or here. I was trying to trade something like this today, but again, you need to keep an eye on the price in New York. That's the logic. So I mainly use some kind of technical analysis. Sometimes I use smart money concepts, imbalances, and order blocks. Well, I call them imbalances, horizontal levels, volume levels, mirror levels, and I try to trade within the kill zones of trading sessions. Specifically, the New York kill zone interests me the most. That's the first few hours.
So we've covered indicators, but now I'm interested in hearing not just about indicators, but about something like a checklist before entering a trade. In other words, do you have, for example, three main rules that either prevent you from entering a trade or, on the contrary, confirm it?
How would I look for, say, a short position or a long position for myself in this situation? I've already explained the short position. Here, I'm looking for a break and consolidation below this zone, below this low. If we have three tests and a reaction on this reaction right in this zone. When necessary, I sometimes use candlestick analysis and price action. For example, if there's a hammer forming downward here, or a doji appears, or the volume starts to decrease, or rather, if the short volume starts to increase or decrease, if something like that happens, like what's happening now, meaning there's a divergence, I'll enter with a stop like this. Of course, the risk reward isn't the best, 2 or 3, but it's a workable position for me.
By the way, what risk reward do you usually aim for per trade? On average, 2.
0.5 to 3. If I catch a really good position, it can be 5 or even 6. For example, yesterday I tried trading and I saw a situation here. There was a slowdown. We took out the high here, took out the high here, and took out the high here. For me, this was a sign of a slowdown, and I was waiting for the first big candle, this one, when the engulfing started. I entered with a small stop just above this high, and my target was to take out this wick. As you can see, we calmly reached it, and then the news came out. Here's where the news started, the FOMC.
Back and forth. Was that when they updated the rate yesterday? Yeah.
Yeah, and look at how they moved it yesterday. It was interesting. All of this was the FOMC meeting, and then after that, the real movement started calmly.
Yeah, there's that video where Jerome Powell comes out on stage, says, "Good afternoon," and the price just.
Yeah, but you see, if you look at the chart, that's exactly how it played out.
Now let's move over to the Upscale terminal where you'll show us your current results, your certificate, and everything else that follows. What's happening on the screen right now? I see you have some open trades.
Yes, at the moment, I'm not trading a large volume, with a stop loss of about 1%. Of course, logically, it should be right here, just a bit above this level. With a 1% stop, I took a short position with the first target. If we switch to the hourly chart, well, yes, right here, 15,700, 115,700. I usually set alerts for myself. I don't set a take profit point right away. I set alerts, immediately open the terminal, monitor the price, and if needed, I lock in part of the profit or move the stop to break even. By the way, I think that's also an important part of a trading system. Yes, I lock in part of the profit and move the stop to break even if I see a reason to do so.
And am I right in understanding that what you just described to us, what you showed in the terminal, and now talking about moving the stop to break even, this is the same strategy you used to pass the challenge on Upscale, right?
Yes, exactly.
How many days did it take you to complete the first phase, the second phase, to get your first payout? How did that go for you?
Well, I actually successfully passed two significant challenges. I had two fully funded accounts, and my absolute shortest run was a mere 9 days.
By the way, the minimum is 8. The minimum is actually 8 days. Yes, the minimum was 8.
It was a very active market, and I remember that in the second phase, I made most of the profit in just 1 day. There was a strong move in Ethereum. I caught it from about three something. Well, you can check from four stops, I think, up to 4.5. I took it and almost completed the whole phase. After that, I only had 4 profitable days left to do, and that challenge took me just 9 days in total.
By the way, maybe you could show the certificate to prove that you really did reach the funded stage and receive the payout.
Yes, here's the first one. Oh, the first one, to be precise, from August 2nd.
Here it is now.
Here's the certificate, $91, and this account, I received it for participating in a contest on a demo account. I was one of the first to reach the funded stage on a demo account, and for that, they gave me a free challenge. I passed it too in about 10 or maybe 12 days. I don't remember exactly. I think you can look it up somewhere.
By the way, I'd like to point out to our viewers that you really can try Upscale absolutely free. First of all, we have a lot of activities where you can get challenges. There are live streams, giveaways, all sorts of things. You can scan the QR code above me or the QR code below, which is under Daniil. And instead of buying a challenge, you can open a demo account and actually get a feel for what prop trading is like. The conditions on the $10,000 demo account are exactly the same as what you'd have on a real Upscale account. So if you're unsure or don't know where to start, I think now is the perfect time. Plus, sometimes we even run promotions like the one Daniil just mentioned. You know what? Could you switch to your account so we can actually see what's going on with you right now? At the moment,
Right now, I have two challenges, but they're in the red. I took a hit a few days ago, and now I'm slowly recovering. Well, you can see it, you can see the progression. The first drop, I bounced back, and then I went down again. But I think overall, I'll get the account back on track. It's the same story here.
I'm looking now, and your challenge isn't on the funded phase. What's up with that? Did you just like it that way?
It's important to mention that, yes, in my previous challenge, the funded one, both of them, I broke the rules. I think it was the daily risk management rule.
Yeah, the daily drawdown.
Yes, the daily stop, and basically I lost them. Now I'm going through it all over again.
So how did that happen, that you broke the rule? Did your stop not trigger? No, I mean, how could it not trigger? No, it definitely didn't trigger. The thing is,
That's not it. Somewhere I just didn't set it. I clearly remember that I lost one account because I forgot to set the stop. That's on me. And on the second one, well, I exceeded the risk. Let's put it that way. So obviously, in both cases, it was my fault.
so why is it that you had a funded account, you even got a payout from it that completely covered your expenses? So why did you decide to start all over again instead of just, trying it, succeeding, and stopping? What motivates you?
My goal was to recoup my investment. I bought about 5 accounts, and with one withdrawal, I covered all of them.
And
The further strategy was to earn money from the profits, specifically from the funded account. The underlying logic is to cover your essential expenses so that later, as experienced traders often say, for example, some might say, take the base and let the trade run. Basically, I took the base and I have absolutely no regrets because I could have potentially lost the entire account with the profit, right? But this way, I successfully got the profit.
yes, losing is always unpleasant, but it's
It's a lesson, a good.
a significant lesson in life, I would even confidently say. And you could certainly say that you don't have a great deal of experience just yet, but I'm more than absolutely sure that you've already figured out some truly valuable things for yourself. So, could you please share with me and our attentive audience some of the common mistakes that you personally made at the very beginning of your journey, and which you would strongly recommend our dedicated viewers to diligently avoid in their very own trading strategies?
Don't exceed your risk. That's the most important thing. No matter how great your strategy is, if you take on too much risk, at some point it will end badly. It's inevitable. In my opinion, that's the most important thing. You need to work on your psychology, which I consider the most crucial, and not take on excessive risk. Everything else, technique, experience, will come with time. I think trading is just like any other profession. It has its own challenges, pitfalls, and rules. If you approach it wisely, the experience and technical skills will follow. The most important thing is not to blow up your account in the market, because recovering from that is going to be very difficult, both psychologically and financially. Even if you have a small deposit, after all, we all start with small deposits, and even now I trade with small deposits. If you lose it, like I did, for example, you have to start all over again. Of course, I'll get through it. I know that, but it will take time. Meanwhile, I could have used that time to make a profit.
Of course, those who don't take risks don't drink champagne, but in trading, you still need to manage your risks and understand what the consequences might be.
Keep a trading journal and do backtesting. If you really want to be a trader, you need a trading journal. It doesn't matter if it's digital or on paper, though paper is better, of course, because writing your thoughts by hand gives you more opportunity to truly reflect on your thoughts. Why are you entering the trade? Why are you taking this trade? What are your goals? And everything else along those lines. And do backtesting, analyze what you've done. This will give you a huge boost.
So, don't overexpose yourself to risk, keep a trading journal, and do backtesting.
Yes.
So, we've basically come up with 3 rules. What difference does it make, whether it's basic or not? The most important thing is that it works. It was built on tears, on blood, on hardships, so it might sound, well, maybe too simple, but whoever said that something genius has to be complicated, right?
If your trading strategy takes half an hour to fully explain, I truly think it's complete nonsense. It absolutely shouldn't work like that, where you have to spend a full half an hour just putting up numerous indicators. We've all certainly seen those infamous screenshots with a truly huge number of lines, various indicators, and countless candlesticks. It looks almost as if some kind of elaborate satanic ritual is actually going on. That's precisely what it feels like to many people,
Yeah. I get what you mean.
in reasonable simplicity.
Speaking of simplicity, you previously mentioned that you initially traded spot, then you subsequently tried futures trading, and then you also tried prop trading. Based on your extensive experience, where do you find it emotionally easier for you to trade? On the spot market, on futures contracts, or within prop trading firms?
Spot trading doesn't require any real involvement at all. I traded simply by consistently investing funds. I picked a day of the week, a day of the month for myself, and once a month I would buy assets. I bought Cardano at 30 cents. I bought Doge when it had just come out, even before it hit the main market, and then I sold it a month later. So, on a specific day, I would go in, buy for a certain amount, and forget about it. That's not trading, that's investing. I just waited for some multiples, and I ended up making almost 3 times my initial investment, and then I closed everything out, and just in time, because after that there was what I call the Trump dump, and then a crypto winter. Nothing good happened. Now, of course, everything is recovering, but just imagine how long you would have had to sit in that asset. Now, if we're comparing futures and prop trading, for me, prop trading is preferable because you risk a small amount but have big opportunities. If you really have the skills and knowledge, you'll get the same profit one way or another.
In fact, the overall risk reward ratio is quite, well, interesting. It turns out to be pretty attractive if
The ratio is better.
it's interesting, but overall, that's exactly what prop trading was created for. It's always fascinating to hear our guests' opinions. Whether prop trading resonates with them or, on the contrary, doesn't resonate at all. Some say it doesn't.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I get you. I get you. So let's delve into a rather prevalent and frequently discussed phenomenon, the significant and often challenging emotional swings that traders experience throughout their active trading sessions, which can profoundly impact their decision-making processes and overall performance in the financial markets. Do you ever deal with that at all? I mean, like FOMO, revenge trading, or something else? And how do you deal with it? Or do you even try to deal with it? Or do you just keep throwing in your whole stack and catching liquidations? You have to fight it. I told you about my first FOMO experience when I sold Doge at the bottom. I bought it at the bottom and sold it at the bottom, just a bit higher. Yeah, well, I made a little bit of money on that. It was the same thing with XRP. When it first shot up to $1.50, I sold it at $1 and I bought it at 50 cents. It stung a little, but profit is profit. That's always how I reassure myself. Of course, when you don't have experience, you don't make as much as you could, but the main thing is not to lose. That's how I see it. The risk to reward ratio should be such that your profit outweighs your risks. That's it. Of course, I experience FOMO. Especially now, the market is very active, and there are situations when you get stopped out, just like everyone else. You get stopped out, and then it moves in your direction. That's classic. And then you sit there thinking, no, if only I had moved my stop. But you can't do that. I always stop myself in those moments and remind myself not to move the stop. If you have a plan, stick to it. If you promise yourself something, set certain tasks, you have a goal, you have the tools, and you have a path to achieve it. Follow the plan, otherwise it all turns into gambling. But you can still move the stop if we're talking about moving it to break even. Break even, yes. If you enter a position, you need to know where your stop loss is. I explain it to myself this way. The stop loss is set where your idea gets invalidated. If the price goes above your stop loss, your idea should be cancelled. Otherwise, it's an inadequate stop loss. That means you're placing it in the wrong spot, not based on your idea, but because of excessive risk. Like, I want to make more profit, so I'll tighten my stop loss, but it'll still be just 1%. But that's nonsense. Reduce your position, move your stop to a reasonable point, and hold it. Then it works. Of course, all of this sounds great. But in your answer, I didn't hear the main point. How do you actually deal with FOMO? With physical activity? For example, you hit a stop loss and you have an intraday position and you start punching the wall. No, absolutely not. That's funny. No, but if you have a boxing trainer on the wall, you can punch the wall. Feeling FOMO? Do some kind of sport. Do some push-ups, I don't know. Go for a walk, leave your phone at home, get some fresh air while it's still warm. Buy yourself some ice cream, sit on a bench, and think about whether you should keep going today. And well, for me, all of this is physical activity. Any movement not related to trading or the terminal, any distraction from it gives you a chance to switch gears and cool off a bit to shake off the negative background. And FOMO is a negative background. So basically, your way of dealing with FOMO is to change your environment and give yourself a kind of internet detox, essentially. Yes, yes. Trading is quite intense and emotional. Your nerves are all over the place. So, have you ever had a situation where you wanted to quit trading? I mean, I don't know, when you just got completely fed up with everything. Or say you lost a really large amount of money, but in the end you decided to stay. And what made you decide to keep going? I haven't lost a large amount of money, but I've had some small liquidations, like $30 to $50 here and there. I think most traders have had some liquidations. It's very unpleasant, but it never made me want to just throw everything away. Like, that's it, I'm not coming back. It's impossible. I'm not cut out for this. You start to wonder how capable you really are. Maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but life has taught me a little that hard work and diligence can overcome anything. If you approach something intelligently, at some point success is inevitable. But it's very important to understand that the phrase intelligently is the key here. If you just keep gambling endlessly and try to enter a position on every candle, it won't work. You have to understand what's what. At some point, it will shoot up. And if I open a full margin long with maximum leverage on every pip every day, will I eventually get something out of it? On the very first day, you'll get something, either liquidation or big gains. What exactly, I don't know. At that point, well, go ask Powell what he's planning to say. Well, as you can see, it's not that important. The market moves both ways. Most likely, it would be a liquidation. I hear you, I hear you. I really like it, I really like it. And actually, I suggest that on such a positive note, we start to wrap things up a bit. Yes. And what exactly can we do? First of all, what valuable advice could you possibly give to those aspiring traders who are currently unsure whether they truly need prop trading or not? And maybe give them a little motivational speech. I'll put it this way, you have to genuinely enjoy trading itself. Don't come here just to make money. Like, I'm going to put in 18 bucks and just cash out. I'll have mountains of gold here. Yeah. Upscale will make me a millionaire. It doesn't work that way. Yes, this is a long-term game. Well, perhaps, just perhaps, it will indeed happen exactly like that. But, and this is crucial, it will only come to fruition if you genuinely make it an integral part of your everyday life. You have to enjoy what you're doing. And trading is an awesome opportunity to turn relatively small amounts of money into relatively large ones. Because here, one way or another, it's all about the multiples. If you put in 18 bucks and took out 100, you made 5 times your money. Isn't that what crypto enthusiasts dream about? I think that's exactly it. That's right. Everything is in your hands. Most importantly, I want to say, enjoy the process and keep learning. Don't stop, always analyze, always learn. Don't doubt yourself, but always look for something new for yourself and everything will work out. You know, like I love to say in all our videos, first of all, yes, follow risk management and pay attention to your psychology. But in the end, I always say that we'll see each other at the top. So if you believe in what you're doing, if you put in the effort, follow the basic rules of risk management and psychology, and touch some grass, sometimes the green kind in the park, if you have grass growing there, because maybe someone from Iceland or Greenland is watching us where there is no grass, or from Yakutia, if we're talking about the CIS region. Believe in yourself, everything will work out, anything is possible. Daniil has just clearly shown that even though there were indeed setbacks, you absolutely cannot reach truly great heights without experiencing them. That's how it is. I want to thank you, Daniil, for joining us. It was a pleasant conversation. And I want to mention that you can find all the useful links to our resources below in the description. There you'll find our technical support, a warm community, the terminal itself. You can open a demo account. And of course, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Daniil and I did our best together. Thank you very much for the conversation as well. For me, it was a great experience. It's an opportunity to share what I've been through. I think this kind of social reflection is important for all of us. People hear that they're not alone. And I get to share my experience and maybe feel some support, right? One way or another, we're all a community, and it's very important to share our experiences. See you at the top. See you soon.